Welcome to Paranormal or Reality. On today's video, we explore some Hollywood ghost stories that will keep you up at night. Now make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Let's begin. Our apartment grows darker by the day. It has been a year and 2 months since we moved in, and we have each had our own personal paranormal experience. Apartment number 5 at 6827 Laurel Canyon Boulevard, North Hollywood, California, 91605. Allow me to begin. We moved into this place October 2005. It was Eric, Francis, and I. Eric and I shared a room. Francis had her own room. Eric was the first to mention her. I say her now only after putting several occurrences together. The first took place while Eric was playing guitar. He was strumming a gentle tune on my classical guitar when he said he heard a lady's voice singing to what he was playing. He said it sounded far off, as if in the distance, but at first he assumed that it was Francis singing. He stopped playing and called out Francis's name, thinking she was downstairs singing. When he realized he was alone, he put down the classical guitar and began playing some metal riffs on his electric guitar when he suddenly felt someone, as he put it, pull my strumming hand away from the guitar with such force that his hand actually came off the guitar. At which point, he put down the electric guitar and went outside to smoke a cigarette and wait until I came home from work before going back inside. This is how I found him. Next, he tells me that he has seen the vertical blinds moving in the living room as if someone is brushing them while walking by. Frances said she had seen it as well. I am always working and hadn't taken the time to notice. So when I finally had a day off, I picked up my guitar and started to play. Yes, I heard her sweet voice too. It was beautiful, singing to what I was playing as if she had already written the words. It scared me at first, but then I continued playing to see if I could hear her again, and I did. Her voice soon began to drift too far off, slowly fading out of reach until I no longer heard her. Although I wanted to hear her again. I lived at a very large, well-known apartment complex in Los Angeles for 2 years. It's huge, old, and feels like The Shining at times. In my 2 years there were at least 2 bodies found in parking lots. One by a gunshot, and another was unclear, but it's a pretty good neighborhood. You never hear of shootings. The place's history is riddled with suicides, overdoses, and the overall vibe of the complex, 26 different buildings, is dark and eerie. I lived in a tiny studio. It was fine. Although those 2 years were plagued by depression, I very rarely left my bed. I gained like 20 pounds, lost my confidence, and became super introverted for no apparent reason. Now, I blame it on the energy of the building. So, let's go ahead and talk about the spooky stuff. I used to hear 2 voices in my old apartment, always coming from the bathroom. They seemed to be talking to each other. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I could tell one voice was female and the other was a male. It sounded a lot like a radio station that wasn't quite clear, turned all the way down. Cabinets and doors would be open when I'd get home, despite me never touching them. My friend slept over once and said she was up all night hearing whispers. She wouldn't go into details the next morning, but I could tell she was rattled. I made some friends who also lived in the complex, although in different buildings. My friend Liz said she felt 3 intense chills up her spine while on the computer, then heard something fall. When she checks it out, her smoke detector had been ripped off. My other friend Emily has it really bad. She hears banging on her wall above her head at 3 a.m. every night. The banging isn't coming from the floor above her, and the only thing that could make those sounds is if someone was banging the wall from the next room, which is her living room. Obviously, no one is getting into her living room every night to bang on her wall. When she first moved into this place, she'd wake up with bruises on her arms and shoulders. Terrifying, right? She started burning sage every so often, and the bruises haven't come back. I also fell victim to ghosty bruises. I started packing up my stuff about 2 months before my move-out date. Those 2 months, as my apartment started emptying, I would wake up with the most embarrassing and disgusting bruises on my calves. Like the size of a peach or something, but multiple, all blending in with each other. My mom saw them when she came to help me move out and was mortified. She thought I was anemic, or like doing it to myself. She made me go to the doctors so they could check me out and run tests. But there was never an answer. The bruise never came back once I left that apartment. Liz and Emily still live there, so I go back pretty often. The new owners are making renovations, painting the walls fun colors, but that place is still haunted. To start with, I've never necessarily had an opinion on whether the paranormal was real one way or the other. I've had friends all my life who have these creepy, unexplainable experiences, and while I don't disbelieve them or anything, nothing like that had ever happened to me. I've been believing for years that if ghosts do exist, they're not really interested in me. This seems like it now may be about to change. After 5 years living in New York, I moved to Los Angeles last month, and I'm subleasing from a friend of a friend's apartment. She told me that she has sublet before without any issues, but if the building manager or anyone ever asked, I should tell them that I'm the real renter's friend, and I'm staying there for a bit while she's out of town. I agreed to this and moved in. The first strange thing I noticed was the cell phone reception. This is a well-populated area in the middle of a major city. I've never had a problem with cell phone reception anywhere else in the neighborhood. The second you step into my apartment, total dead zone, but I'm able to send iMessages after connecting to the Wi-Fi. If I want to make a phone call, I have to go outside. Earlier this week, I stepped outside to call my mom. Something I've already noticed is that LA is a car-based city, so people don't really walk around here. Especially because my neighborhood is very residential, you only really see people on the street if they're walking from their car to their apartment or vice versa. So when I was on the phone with my mom, I noticed it was out of the ordinary when I saw a man just kind of lingering, looking in my direction. He was far enough away from me that if it were New York, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. But something about it really unnerved me. I am not a confrontational person. At all. I never think any fight is worth it, and I have literally run into buildings to avoid awkward conversations with people on the street. I say this so you can understand how out of character what I did next was. I've been thinking it over, and I still can't understand why I did it. After I hung up the phone, I kind of huffed over to the guy and demanded, "Can I help you with something?" When he looked at me, his eyes seemed cloudy. Not actually cloudy, as if he were high or something, but cloudy in my memory. I can't get a clear picture of exactly what he looked like. He gestured towards my building and asked, "Do you live there?" My first thought, "Oh, this is the landlord. He figured out I'm subletting and I'm about to get evicted." So, I gave him the story about staying there while the girl on the lease was out of town. He asked, "Will she be back on Friday?" I answered, "No, sorry, not by then." He looked me in the eye and said, "Will you?" I don't know how to explain his tone here. It wasn't a joke or a creepy sexual comment or anything. It was just very simple and somehow very serious. I kind of mumbled something awkward about how I was sorry to bother him and backed away. As the week went on, I kind of forgot about the incident. I had a busy week, and hey, it's the city. You're bound to have some weird encounters at one time or another. I came home exhausted after work on Friday and went to take a shower. Everything seemed fine. I got out of the shower and was about to step out of the bathroom when I heard what had to be footsteps on the other side of the door. I live alone. I know what footsteps sound like versus creaky pipes or anything else sound like, and these were deliberate, slow footsteps, walking around my apartment and getting closer to me. I went into a panic. I'm such an idiot. I didn't lock the door behind me, or someone broke in and now I'm being robbed. No one knows I'm here, and I am naked in the bathroom with only a safety razor to use in self-defense. I stood there, spiraling, and suddenly I remembered the weird conversation from earlier that week. "Will you be home Friday?" It was Friday. I was home. As I'm spiraling about this, the footsteps suddenly stop. No sound of anyone coming out, or in through the door or window or anything else like that. One second they were there, the next they weren't. It took an hour for me to finally calm down enough to come out of the bathroom. When I did, I checked the door. Deadbolted behind me, just like I always do. No sign of a break-in, no sign anyone had been there at all that night but me. I want to believe I just imagined this. I really do. But like I said, I never have experiences like this. My brain has never leaped to seeing the paranormal when it isn't there. And I don't think it's a subconscious fear about living alone either. I lived alone for 3 years in New York. Many of my best friends live here in LA, so I don't feel alone here than I did there. I'm still unsure what I felt that night. I've done my fair research since I've been an adult, and I've never forgotten this chain of experiences. I moved in with my father when I had turned 9 years old. He was a single dad, worked long hours. It was just him and me living in a 4-bedroom house in East Los Angeles. I was pretty grown up for being so young. I walked myself to and from school, did my own laundry, could even make myself basic meals, so it was completely normal for me to get home from school, make a snack and get cozied up with my PlayStation, then play something for a bit before my dad came home from work. Skip forward, I was living there for about 2 months, and I started feeling weird, like I wasn't alone in the house. I kept telling my dad how I felt. He tried saying it was normal, it was a big move for someone my age, and I was just starting at a new school, so on. I started waking up having panic attacks about dying. I seriously was having an existential crisis at 9 years old. One day, when playing some PlayStation and probably drinking some Tang, I saw this shadow walk down the hallway. I knew I was home alone. I got so scared. I told my dad, and he brushed it off. Same thing happened a few days after that, except I was now positioning myself so that I was fully facing the door while being in my room. Nothing was going to get past me. It happened pretty fast, but I knew for sure it was a woman. She had long black hair and was wearing like a weird older silk red dress. I asked to go to my dad's friend's house after school the very next day, and continued. I made sure I was never home alone. This whole time my anxiety about dying had turned into like an obsession. I started to not be able to sleep. I was scared to take showers with the door closed. I started sleeping with lights on. I never needed a nightlight before. This is where it starts to get even creepier. Few months go by, my anxiety starts to go away a bit. I'm now down to just a nightlight in the corner on. Hallway light can be turned off. She started appearing again, but she was going into my room. I would feel a slight pressure like someone sitting on the end of my bed. Then it would feel like someone was gently running their fingers through my hair. The first few times, I remember being paralyzed. I knew I wasn't sleepy because I was positive. I'd never fallen asleep. But when I would feel the pressure after that, I would curl into a ball under my blankets until I felt the presence be gone. I've never seen her again, but I swear I never feel alone. It's been 20 years. Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.